Hey, thanks. So, good morning, guys, and good afternoon for some, I guess. So, this is the last talk I guess heard for this day, and it was a really nice Samhita talks for the APAC team. So, I'll just quickly start with my talk. This will be a bit quicker because we have only 15 minutes for this, but I guess you can have your Q&As there, and I will definitely answer them right now or maybe even offline. And I guess there is a prize if you have most like questions. So do ask your questions there. I'll just start sharing the screen and we'll start with the presentation. So I hope the screen is viewable. Sometimes Prime doesn't work that way.
Yes, Mohit, we can see your screen.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. Uh, so the main idea behind this talk is how we can improve and accelerate the developer experience we have for OpenShift. So Red Hat has been trying to improve this developer experience for OpenShift for a while now, and this has been one of the primary goals which we have. So I'll just explain how we are going tackling this with keeping in mind the developer preferences we have currently in the community. So Red Hat supports multiple vendors, or I should say, different cloud providers. It can be AWS, it can be Azure, GCP, and we have a local support for that, which is known as Red Hat Code Ready Containers. And the support list can be found at cloud.redhat.com. So the idea is why this all is done for, right? What's the use case of this? So the main goal here is the developers are the real kingmakers here. They are going to test it out on their different environments, different systems, and it should not be something which is directly being tested in the production. The developers can directly work on any OpenShift instance, deploy their projects there directly, and figure out that what's the need for them is there. Do they need more VM? Do they need different type of projects to be deployed? Everything can be tested. So the ideal goal here is the real kingmakers are the developers. So how do we enable that, right? So developers, you have different preferences for different IDs, and the current favorite on the market is Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So Red Hat has created different OpenShift plugins which can be integrated with VS Code and which allows developer to the code which were previously working on VS Code directly to be deployed, debugged, and uh, processed on OpenShift instance directly from the editor. They need not do anything else. Being in the editor itself, everything will work seamlessly. So as I mentioned, it's more or less everything is about the developers. I will be definitely showing a short demo after the slides are over, so that we get a quick enhancement at how this thing works. But what this thing basically does, it basically improves your productivity and it basically improves the environment which you're working. You can test it on all the variants which you have on Linux, Mac, Windows. You can also test on different G streams or P stream which are supported by IBM. So those different environments, the productivity is increased, and you have different tool sets right now to test your code directly on your OpenShift instance, directly from your editor. So that is something which is very much useful for a developer. And this works seamlessly on any OpenShift instance. For example, if you're running OpenShift 3.x, this works seamlessly there. If you're running OpenShift 4.x or the latest OpenShift 4.4, it works seamlessly. So what's the idea behind this is it you can update your cluster consistently. You just have to provide the cluster URL to the extension, and that is it. And you can just deploy your application there. As I mentioned, it works on any platform, and whatever OpenShift image we have, it fetches that, and it is independent upon the application which you're creating. You can create a Python application, you can create a Node.js application, you can create a Java application. Whatever works for your development environment can be easily used using this extension. And this is a self-service deployment application. You can deploy your application. You can see the deployment configs. You can see which pods are running, on what containers it is running, on which routes are created for that pod. All other informations can be directly seen from an extension itself from your editor. And even the cluster node scaling and all other things can be directly seen. So the idea is, why are we using this extension and not using any say CLI form or any other source? So as a developer, for example, if I am writing a Node.js application, I would definitely want my code to be quickly tested on OpenShift instance, see what is breaking, what is not breaking, and again make those changes and again do a quick push. So this quick push test scenario is basically helpful for a developer, and that is what basically is developing and deploying applications quickly. But how this increases my productivity? This gives basically delivers more value to the business, because as the developer workflow is enhanced, they know that okay, which type of application is currently going to work on which type of which instance of OpenShift. Is that application being currently supported on that version of OpenShift? How does that project supports the hybrid cloud infrastructure? So all those in scenarios are being covered in this developer workflow, and which basically is going to enhance the business model in the longer run. So we have everything what code needs, right? For example, if you go ahead and say, okay, I need to push my code very quickly. I need to see what builds changes are there, what deployment config changes are there. I need to see the logs which are there. Is it something is breaking, something has failed? But everything can be done directly in your editor. You did not go to an external website or any CLI terminal command or anything else. Everything can be seen directly on your editor while you're writing your code. So this basically improves your more workflow of writing your code and testing it. So this is just more than developing. This can be used to develop anything, anytime, anywhere, which basically is that OpenShift instance or that cluster might be running in, say, Phoenix instance, and you're writing your code from somewhere else, and you can still test that code and see how that thing works. You can, this is independent of any language you're familiar with. You can write your code in Java or in Python or in Node, and still the extension will support it. So now I'll just go ahead and do a quick demo of the extension, because I believe seeing the a live example would be much better to explain what the functionality is. So as I mentioned, the editor which we are targeting right now is Microsoft Visual Studio Code. The platform is OpenShift, and we support different cloud providers, which are basically AWS and Azure as of now. The complete list can be found at cloud.redhat.com. And this same extension is also available for IntelliJ. So for developers who are comfortable in IntelliJ and not on VS Code, you can get the same experience on IntelliJ also. And you definitely have a freedom of choice. As I mentioned, you can work on any language you want, any language is comfortable with, and deploy that application on your OpenShift instance. So let's go ahead and do a quick demo of it. So this is my VS Code instance, right? And if you go to VS Code Marketplace, and you can just search for OpenShift connector, I'll just show how that works basically. So if you go here and you just go to VS Marketplace, this is the OpenShift connector, which is provided by Red Hat, and currently it has 18,000 plus installs. So you can directly install it from here, and this will install in your VS Code instance. Or you can go to VS Code, and in the extensions bar, you can just go ahead and type OpenShift. And this will be the first extension which it provides, and you just need to do install. This has been currently installed for the demo, but this is how it works. And once the installation works seamlessly, you can go ahead, and there will be an OpenShift icon which is provided here, and you just have to click on it. And this basically lists down all the projects which are present in that cluster. So I've currently connected to an AWS instance, and you can anytime connect to any other instance. You just have to go here and do login. And as soon as you do login, it will ask you different steps which are needed. And basically, you can log in using a username or password, or you can even log in into your token, right? And for example, if I just go ahead and do new project and say submit, okay, I guess submit will be created. So if you see submit is created here, I should have named it something else, because now it's at the bottom of the screen. So let me see what I have in the local workspace. Okay. So now if you see, I have a Node.js application in my local workspace, and let me just create a quick component out of a Node.js application and deploy this component directly on my OpenShift, right? I go to this OpenShift extension, I go here, I do new component, and I'll say create application app123. And I can select any Git repository also to create a component. I can select any binary file. I can even select my local workspace. So let's go ahead and do a local workspace. This will basically ask me what should be my context folder. So the idea behind a context folder is if you have a context folder selected, you can just provide your configuration there, and that configuration can be shareable across different instances. So if any you want to replicate the same instance somewhere else, you can just have to share that configuration and the same instance will be configured. So that is the advantage. You can share your configuration across. If I go ahead and select that, and meanwhile, while it's loaded, so okay, it's loaded here. So let me just name it as Node.js, and everything can be directly done from the UI. Now it will prompt me to provide which type of component it is. I can select any type of component I want. So my project currently is of Node, so I'll just go ahead and do Node.js, and I'll select the latest version, and it will start creating a component. So once this component gets created, you can do multiple push. So see if the component is already created. Now it asks me to push that component to the cluster. So I'll say, okay, push the component to the cluster. Once that is created, so you can see the status currently is not pushed. So once the push is done, in the terminal, if you see the push will start, and it will be deploying my code directly to the OpenShift instance, which is running. And once that is done, I can create multiple routes for it. I can even debug that application directly on my local instance. So the advantage is once I've written this Node.js code and I want to debug this, so I can directly debug locally, and that debug will work on once it is deployed on the OpenShift instance. So and the basic advantage currently is we are supporting the debug operation for Node.js and Java components only. But going future, as we get more feedback from the community, this will increase for other programming languages. But the debug feature is just enabled for the Node and Java component. So we'll wait for the component to get created. And you can even, so once for the demo, I have just made that thing work. So if you see here, you can create different routes. You can add different storages. You can even follow logs and see what logs are being done. If I do follow log here, so the log will be directly populated on your editor itself. So once everything gets done, the logs will always be updated. You can see the logs are getting updated in real time, and the streaming is working. But from the editor itself, you can just stop the streaming, and that will be done. So now we can see the it has been successfully pushed. So I'll just do this, and I'll just open this in browser to see what's the status of it. And okay, so the application prompts me that, okay, I can open it in browser, but there's no route yet created. So let me just go ahead and create one route, and I'll say route URL 123. And it will prompt me to ask that whether I need to create a secured URL or not secured URL. For the demo, I just say, no, I don't need a secured URL. So you see it's creating a new route for my component. So meanwhile that is done, I can show you, you can see if there's a debug option here. You see the route is already created, but this is currently in the local state. So now if I need this route to be available for my cluster, I just need to do push again. And this will basically start one more push operation, which will basically push the new route to the cluster. So these are very simple steps needed for a developer to just push their node application directly onto the OpenShift instance. It's you see the changes are there. So now as everything is done, and you can see on my node, the new route has been created. So just open this node. I'll just open this. I can directly open this on the terminal itself. Now it asks me to open this. Let's see what's the status of that. Okay, so I have my new Node.js application directly deployed on my OpenShift instance. So you see, this is the dev cluster which is running on AWS, and this is my Node.js application which has been deployed directly from my editor, from my VS Code. I can also go ahead and do a normal debug. Once I do a debug, it will say debug session has been started, and we can debug all those applications directly as we normally debug a node application from VS Code. And this debug basically works because your application is currently deployed on OpenShift instance. And there are other options also. So once you have pushed this to your cluster, you want to undeploy it. You don't want that thing to be in the cluster, but you want that thing to be in your local configuration. You have this undeploy command. You can also watch all your changes which are currently happening. So you see the debug session has already started. And if I need to debug my application directly from my workspace, I can go ahead and do all the debug operations. So if you see in my workspace, there's .odo folder which gets created, and it has this config.yaml file. This is the same configuration file which I was mentioning before, which stores all your configuration information, like what type of component, what is it was Node.js component, what type of version it was, what is the source type, which ports are being exposed, what is the name of the application, and all other informations which are related to it. And the different advantage it has is you can link different services. For example, you need to link a MongoDB database. You can link here directly. For example, if you go to my code and you see there is no database configured, right? But if I need to configure a MongoDB database here, I just have to go here and just do link service. If I need to link any other component, for example, this is my front end, I need to link this to my backend, say, which is written in Java. I can just link that here. And even I can describe this application, and that describe will open in my editor, and which basically will inform me what type of component this is, what type of debug port it is running, and what is the URL for this, and all other information directly in your editor. You need not switch anything. You need not worry about any CLI use case or anything. Everything is done from your editor itself. So I guess this was a very quick demo. I think I might have done very quickly here, but this is what I wanted to discuss with you guys and showcase. If you guys have any more queries at how we can develop any other application, say for example you need to run Java, it works the same way. Instead of having a Node.js application, you just need to have a Java application. That's it. So that is it for the demo, guys, and move to my slides here. So just branding the Red Hat OpenShift logo here, and which basically is where ideas become reality. And this extension has been extensively used across VS Code and IntelliJ both, and we are definitely looking for more feedback from the community so that we can definitely improve it. The code is available on GitHub, and we are available on CoreOS Slack channels. So please ping us if you need have any queries about this. So thank you guys for your time. I would be glad if anyone has any questions or anything they want to discuss.
Mohit, do you have questions for audience? Any poll sort of question, like options?
Yeah, so okay, I can start with. So what is the latest version of OpenShift which is available in the market?
Please use the chat window to enter your answer.
Okay, so meanwhile people answer the question on chat, I have one question on QA. So what's the difference between link component and link service? Yeah, so Bhuvnesh, thank you for your question. So I would say now idea behind linking a component is, for example, the demo I showed, the component which I created was a Node.js component, which basically say we are running that for a front end. Now we need to connect that to a backend component, right? So say we have one more component created, which is in Java, runs the backend part of it. Now to integrate both front end and back end, we need to link those two together. And this is where link component comes into picture, where we are linking one component to the other component. That can be any front end, back end, and that works together. So that is what link component does. Now link service is something different. Link service is basically where we can create a service using a service catalog. That service can be a MySQL service, or it can be something else, MongoDB service, or it can be any database service, and we need to link that service to a component. So this is where a link service works. that service can be created using the service catalog which we have in OpenShift docs. So that is how we differentiate between link component and link service. So there's a question from Jay. So thanks, Jay, for your question. So is it supported in Che as well? So yes, this extension currently is supported in Che, and whatever version we release, that gets supported into the latest version of Che. So right now we have the OpenShift extension 0.1.5, which we released like 2 days back. So that will be supported in the latest version of Che. So yeah, whatever we ship gets into Che as well. Okay, so we have answers for my question, but I'm not sure how to decide the winner based on what timestamp, or how is it, or I will let the moderators do that thing.
I think timestamp is a good way.
So what is the
Sorry.
Firstly, what's the correct answer, and probably the timestamp is a good way to decide.
Yeah, because we have two answers from Jay and from Edward, and they both show 2 minutes ago. So it's going to be a bit tough.
In the meantime, there's also another question in the Q&A.
Yeah, so I'll just do that. Yeah. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Someone is there. Okay, so Jay, one more question from your side. How does this work with various operators in extension like Tecton? Okay. So the thing is, currently this is supporting related to OpenShift workflow. So we have separate extension for Tecton, and we have a separate extension for Knative. So allowing people to work directly on Tecton and Knative is something a different experience. But yeah, in the future, we are targeting to integrate all those experience together in OpenShift extension, and from the extension itself, you can see your Tecton pipelines view, or we are targeting. But currently, the Tecton and Knative experience is running as a separate extension.
All right, I'm quickly going to stop the recording.
Okay.
If there's any closing notes that you would want to say. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your time, guys. And this was really nice interacting with Red Hat folks for giving this talk at Summit at Sites. This was a really nice experience, and I hope you guys also got to learn something. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have any queries, any feedbacks, and that would be really nice of you guys. So thank you. And thank you for the moderators also for giving me space and to discuss about this.